Welcome, welcome, welcome to the Pixelated Sausage Show. Hi. How is everyone doing? How y'all doing? Hopefully, well, I am, of course, your host, Mark Christianez, and I've got a handful of games to talk about, including Shadow of the Orient, Unsolved Case Above the Law, Rabbit Raid, and Prison Loop. But before I get to all that, I have some potentially exciting news, but don't hold me to it. I am hopefully, fingers crossed, wanting to bring back Animezingly Baka this upcoming Tuesday. I know the date makes it all seem like a fucking joke, and maybe it will be in the end, but I'm really hoping to put out the second attempt at the bringing back of Animezingly Baka this year, with the completion of this winter 2025 season of anime. So solo leveling is just about to end, and Dr. Stone ends tomorrow. I guess the time of this posting, I think, is either Thursday or Friday. The Apothecary Diaries is a two season show. What else? Sakamoto Days just ended, and so on and so forth. Blue Box was a longer show, but it ended this season. So it seems like the right time to bring back Animezingly Baka, which again, in its new form, will not just be about anime, but also everything I'm watching. So movies, anime shows. I'll be able to talk about my thoughts on the Clone Wars, Rebels, my general rewatch of Star Wars, any movies that pique my interest, and so on and so forth. But again, this upcoming Tuesday happens to be April 1st, so whether or not I actually end up putting out a new episode, well, a new first episode, still anyone's guess. But currently, that is the plan, that is the hope, that is the wish. So I wanted to put that out there up front. And then we also have next week the Switch 2 Direct. There is going to be a Switch 1 Focus Direct tomorrow, well, today, the time of this episode's release. And I thought about maybe holding this off until then, but I don't expect anything super exciting. The most exciting thing for me would be the announcement finally of Wind Waker and Twilight Princess HD for Switch. But I don't know if they would do that there. I don't really know what to expect. And when it comes to the Switch 2, I'm hoping for a mainline Mario announcement because I drafted that in my Fantasy Critic League. So I hope that happens, and I hope it happens this year. But I'm just expecting $400 June release, early June release. And then maybe pre-orders going live later that week or in a week. I would like pre-orders to go live relatively fast, and I will probably be pre-ordering it immediately because I want to play Switch 1 games well, specifically Pokemon. If I know for sure that the Pokemon games, especially the most recent ones, will perform like they should on the Switch 2, then I will buy a Switch 2 at launch, and I will get a couple of vouchers so that I can get Scarlet. I think though that's the newest one, and then maybe the other one that takes place in the olden days. Star Trek, Pokemon Legends of something or other. But outside of that, in terms of news, I know I've talked about wanting to get away from following news and all that, and I had another instance of that wanting to happen today because the thing about following news and what really bothers me most of all and what pushes me away is that I think the sites that do news rather well, like VGC, and I also follow Silicon Era, and maybe it was Silicon Era was that other site that did this today, but the ads on them just have grown more and more obtrusive and annoying to the point where I, at the very least, no longer like going to their site to follow up on a story. So I get the reader, I get it in my RSS feed. Oh, this little thing, and I just look at the headline because I don't want to follow through and go to the website and get an ad that either takes over the entire page or in some cases redirects me to another just full ad page. In some cases where it even feels like it's some kind of bad virusy type of bullshit, like the shit you would find on a torrent or pirating site. You're going to go watch your anime for free because you don't want to pay for a subscription, and then you click something and it sends you to a page with all this pop-up crazy shit, and you're like, this doesn't seem good. And to have that kind of experience with a regular site, a news site, it makes me not want to use that site at all. And that's part of why when it comes to news, I don't really want to follow it anymore because I don't like dealing with that. But outside of that, wasn't any other news that really stood out to me, in part, again, because I'm pushing myself. Well, I am, and the sites themselves are equally pushing me away. I am pulling myself away, I guess, while being pushed away at the same time. But outside of that, the Animezingly Baka news still chugging along with Grounded and the streams for Attack the Backlog. Again, streaming has moved over to YouTube, so if you'd like to watch those, hang out 7 to 11 roughly Central Time every weekday. Archives are there if you wanted to watch those for whatever reason. But yeah, been a good time. These most recent few streams had a new person pop in who has been nice and appreciative, but they do spoil things. And even after I try to, as politely as possible, tell them, I don't want any spoilers, they still spoil some stuff. And it's not even crazy spoilers or anything like that. Just the fact that for me, as someone who doesn't really care about spoilers outside of something I'm engaging with, when I'm directly engaging with something, when I'm literally playing it, I don't like being spoiled on something as I'm playing something. Even if it's a small little detail like, oh, you're going to have to deal with this type of enemy pretty soon. Let me just discover that for myself. I don't need to be spoiled. I don't need to be prepped. I don't want to be prepped. I would like to have a fresh experience and be like, oh man, where did that come from? I had no idea that was happening. So that has been a little bit frustrating. It has taken the wind out of my sails just a smidge because I feel like I'm missing out. I'm losing a little bit in the organicness of my play. Even a detail like, oh, could I be getting close to the end? You're nowhere near the end. I'm like, oh shit. That made me feel like, ugh, really? I'm enjoying my time with it. I'm about 30 hours in at this point, and I'm not against playing it for a good amount more time after this because I'm having a generally good time with it. But when you say, oh, you're nowhere near the end, I'm like, what the 30 hours, I'm nowhere near the end? I know I've been taking my time and I'm slower, and I'm also playing by myself, so that slows things down. But fucking, I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear that. But yeah, that's what's going on there. So let us get on to what I've been playing. All right, starting with that is Shadow of the Orient. So this is an action platformer that has 2 modes: adventure mode, speedrun mode. Adventure mode has you going through 5 different worlds, I guess, comprised of 5 levels. Did I say 5 world? 3 worlds comprised of 5 levels each with a boss fight, or a speedrun mode, which is pretty self-explanatory. I play the first 3 levels of the first area, and I just had no desire, no drive to keep playing because I don't love the way it feels. And I don't, more so than that, really like the level design. I think the level design is lacking more than anything else in the game. Looks all right, pixel art. The controls don't feel bad. Your jump, you have a double jump. That feels nice, feels responsive, looks good. And your base attack feels good. But what really irks me, one, the level design feels just incredibly frustrating, and it just, I don't know. I'm going through these levels and I don't feel a natural movement through them. It just feels weird, like I'm constantly stopping and thinking like, I guess this is the right way. But on top of that, what I don't like about the combat is that pretty much every enemy you face, whether they be a bat, a spider, another samurai, so on, they all take multiple hits to kill. And when you're fighting against them, a few of them, if you get behind them, they'll just they'll just let you hit them until you kill them. They won't turn around and be like, "Oh shit, somebody's punching me in the back." No, they're just like, "Keep punching me until I die, baby. I feel so good. It's like a massage." But when you are attacking them, they'll attack you and you'll take damage. And I pressed every button on the controller. There's no block, no dodge roll, no dash, nothing of that nature to negate that in combat. I guess you could jump over them potentially, but I wish there was a little bit more to the combat that made it so that I felt like I had some kind of answer to an enemy's attack as opposed to just taking it. I feel like all I can do is take it. And maybe there's something I'm missing, but in my playing it, trying every input and not remembering them saying anything during the opening area where you are getting these little text pop-ups explaining the controls and all that. I don't remember anything talking about that. It just became so frustrating for me and not fun, ultimately. Like I said, it doesn't feel bad to control your character, but the actual combat isn't fun, and the level design makes it so that I don't enjoy exploring these levels and getting through them. And so after 3 levels, I said, I don't want to play more. I'm not expecting any big change. Maybe the boss fights could be fun, but maybe they'd be even more frustrating because of the combat limitations. And there are some finicky things against related to the level design, but climbing up certain things on the wall and the way enemies are placed, other things are positioned, you end up having this very small little space to get through, and if you don't, you'll take damage and then you'll fall back down and you have to redo this section. It's just really frustratingly designed. But that is again Shadow of the Orient. Unsolved Case Above the Law is another one of those point and click adventure, hidden object type games that seems to be very AI made in terms of the story and the characters, because when they have these hand-drawn-y looking flat profile, not profile, but there's these flat headshot type pictures of the characters talking, their eyes are moving in ways that don't make sense, and it feels almost like the act of them talking is just Photoshop manipulation, where you're stretching and smudging parts of the face so that you're getting the imitation, not the imitation, but getting the illusion of talking. so it looks weird. And then the actual point-and-click adventure nature of it all, clicking on things, finding hidden objects, and all that jazz, again, has some of that inherent obtuse nature to what needs to be done. But more than that, it really just feels like the game is meant to be played with a mouse and keyboard, where you specifically have a mouse and are able to be way more accurate and pinpoint down your selections and click the spaces you need to click. Because there are plenty of times where I'm clicking in the right area, but I'm just not in that pixel perfect space, so that nothing is registering and it's not doing anything. And like, well, I guess there's nothing here, but I just wasn't on the right pixel. And then certain mini games that want you to, for instance, engrave this rose on the back of a watch, for instance, and you have to line up this crosshair in 3 different spots. And doing that, you're like turning some knobs to position the crosshair. Doing that with the analog stick, you can't. You're just pushing like left or right, and you can't just ever so slightly nudge it. So you'll end up pushing it more than you want, a little bit more than you want, or a little less than you want. And you have to push it a little bit more than you really wanted to, so that you can push it back in the other direction less, and just slowly, gradually end up getting into the place you need, but taking way more time than you should, because you're using a controller as opposed to a mouse and keyboard. And that's frustrating. But again, it's nice to have it available on more platforms, but it just feels very, very PC centric, or even more than that, tablet centric. This feels like something that you would very much like to play on a tablet, and I would probably enjoy way more on a tablet, for instance. That is Unsolved Case Above the Law. Rabbit Raid is another platformer that feels incredibly budgety in terms of level design, art, animation, everything. For instance, you're playing a rabbit who has to go and rescue all the other little baby rabbits or something like that. But your character, instead of them feeling like one solidified model, it feels like and looks like they are the body, and then pasted on top of them is their arm, and pasted behind the body is the other arm. And when you ride it in a vehicle very early on, it may have been a cutscene. The way it works is that, and it's clear, the vehicle, they're not getting inside a vehicle. It's just the vehicle art is placed on top of the rabbit. And it's just like, okay, that's how we're making this all work. So it feels very budgety in that sense. And then mechanically, you just got a basic jump. You can run, and when you run, you can jump higher. And when you run, you stick your mouth open and you look deranged. You're collecting fruit to increase your score before completing a level. And you can also pick up vegetables to throw at enemies, or in some cases, there might be a place where you can drop them in and gain permanent life upgrades. But it just isn't that much fun to play. And the only real positive I can give it is that I do like that the levels are actually quite large and comprised of a bunch of mini levels that are interconnected. So you'll go through an entire, what feels like a level, continue on to the next area, and then you can, if you want, go back to the other area to get other collectibles or stuff like that. So I think that's kind of neatish, but outside of that, it's not really that fun or interesting or engaging. That is, again, Rabbit Raid. And then the last one is Prison Loop, which is very similar to that recently released horror game that came out a few months ago, maybe longer, that had a bit of traction. I forget what it was called. It was a game that I saw some streams of, read about, and thought was very, very interesting and appealing, but I just am not good with horror games, so it's not something I'd be able to play. Where the gist of that game was, you are evaluating these, I don't know if they're meant to be haunted houses, but you're evaluating these houses that are going to be sent to people, and you have to go and look inside them and see if anything sticks out as being different than what is to be expected. And then you either pass or fail the house, and you're trying to get a run of 10 in a row successful judgments in order to beat that game. And in here, you're walking through a prison, just one section of it that is made up of, I think, 5 cells on each side. And you are meant to see if there are any anomalies or not. If you don't notice any anomalies, you keep going. You go through the hallway and go up the stairs to the next loop. And if you notice any anomalies, you turn around and go back the way you came, and you're trying to make it through 10 loops. I, in my little bit of time with it, made it through 5. And it's fine. I really like this idea, this concept for a game, but it doesn't come together quite as well here. The prison aspect of it, I think, is one of the biggest deficiencies here, in that it's not that interesting of a setting. It's kind of dull to just have 5 cells each side. 4 are occupied by inmates, and then the other ones aren't. And you just have to notice, well, okay, is there a giant roll of toilet paper here? Okay, that's clearly not right. Is one of the inmates missing? There'll be a time where an inmate will be, you go through the door and then there's an inmate loose who's running after you. But I didn't find the environment all that interesting to look at and try to find anomalies in. And because it's so stale, there's something about it that makes it maybe harder to notice anomalies, because there's not really that much going on. The empty cells, they're just empty with a toilet, likely a toilet roll, and bed, and that's it. And then the ones with the inmates just have the inmates in them, and you just have to. I like the idea, but the execution here just was a bit lacking. And I'm curious. I'm guessing it's randomly generated, but I got through those 5 loops relatively easily and quickly, and then failed. And I was like, okay, I don't need to go after 10 loops. That is it in terms of what I've been playing, and the end of this here short episode. Real short episode. But you know, sometimes that's how it goes. Don't have anything too crazy to talk about in terms of what I played. Nothing really stood out to me in a way that makes me want to speak to it in a deep manner. So that's just how it goes sometimes. So that'll do it for this here episode of the Pixelated Sausage Show. Once again, I am Mark Krishnez. Y'all can find me pretty much everywhere at PX Sausage. If you enjoy this here show or any of the stuff I do and what have you, you can support me and my nonsense over at patreon.com/PXS. There you can get access to a monthly Q&A, an occasional watch party, very, very occasional watch party. We've only done one so far. A private Discord channel along with some fancy Discord roles, and the random drop on the Patreon here or there depending on your tier. Or you could just support me to support me if that is your fancy. That is again patreon.com/PXS. In addition to the Patreon, you can find links to the site, the YouTube, the Discord, and so much more over at pxsausage.com. That is the letter P, the letter X, sausage.com. But that is it. That is all. As always, thank you for watching or listening. I hope you enjoyed this here episode, and I hope you have both a wonderful rest of your day, a lovely rest of your week, and a wonderful weekend. But for now, adios, arrivederci.